Managing multiple clients or large websites? Automate your SEO with Ali AI. Start your free trial now.
Taylor Swift is a link builder. There were rumors that she would get engaged. Our client said, let's give them a free wedding venue. And then we got them 50 links. That's digital PR.
Wix Studio, one end-to-end web creation platform for your agency to deliver exceptional work with absolute efficiency.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the CRO and UX panel. My name is Myriam Jessier, and I will be the host. Now, what I find fascinating is that I am joined by three experts that run the gamut when it comes to this. So we have Julie Farley, that is more on the concrete business end of things, like let's look at how this moves the needle. Then we have Itasoha, that is specialized in UX and experimentation, and we have Mel, specialized in the messy but so human art of copy that persuades. So without further ado, let me get into the real introductions and we'll get started with the questions. So if I had to sum up Julie, it would be a bold pink blazer in a suit, in a sea of black suits. Today, more purple, but you get where I'm going. She's an all-terrain human with incredible flair, but she also happens to be the head of marketing at EMEA. I can never get these acronyms right, at SEMrush. So technically, this makes her your head of marketing's favorite head of marketing. If you know, you know. So moving on to Itasoha. UX and experimentation expert at Equator, right? So when she's not out there enhancing digital experiences for all of us, she's committing the equivalent of manslaughter at home with plants. Okay, I know I'm a bit dramatic. She just overwaters her plants a lot, but should be known. And last but not least, Mel. So Mel is co-hosting the Indie Business Club podcast and navigating the hidden cost of parenthood, which means that she's one amazing person to have on your late-stage capitalism survival team. But she's also the right person to have as your copywriter for your business because she is a consultant for this. So now that we have it all, I did not plan an introduction for myself. You can Google me if you're that curious. And we're going to get started with the panel. We have three big discussion points. So we do have some questions that enable us to showcase everyone's abilities. We will be taking some questions where it makes sense. You will see very soon. And we have a roaming mic for that. So discussion point number one, metrics and measurement. Okay, I'm a data nerd. That was going to be front loaded. So the first question is, what are the key UX metrics that we think of as traditionally UX metrics that SEOs should be adopting due to, gestures to the fire that the search landscape is now? So let's start with Julie.
Sure. To give a bit of context, I'm going to bring the angle on the demand gen side because it's something that we're actually the program that we're putting in place at SEMrush for our enterprise platform. So what we're doing is actually these programs for the launch of this new platform. So the whole design of the product, but as well the whole marketing and aspect of how to capture this demand. CRO and UX is a big thing for it. So one of the things we are starting to measure, mostly, of course, web vitals are a huge thing for us, but also looking at how long people stay on our pages as a good indicator. One of the things we're actually looking at, I think traditionally what we've been doing is looking at the amount of traffic that we drive, to these new platforms and how much this is kind of a key indicator into the success of the business. On the demand side, what we're actually starting to measure is not so much the quantity, but how much we actually convert those down the funnel. So what we're looking at is more that capture side and then bringing those capture side into the conversion demand of it. So a lot of it's CRO, for instance, and UX are a big thing for that. So this is why how long these people stay on the page is a good indicator for the content that we have. Those are kind of the two big ones I have.
Thank you very much. So let me move on to you, Itasoha. I know microphones, huh?
So I definitely agree a lot with what Julia said. I think just to add to that, from an experimentation point of view, one of the things that we definitely want to be looking out for as well, especially when you're looking at an e-commerce business, would be around average time on site, like she said, but you also want to understand average order values. You want to understand your actual call conversion rate, which sometimes gets so lost in the sauce because everyone is so focused on these other things and they just forget to take a look at that small metric there. Bounce rates as well, and just a lot of your typical metrics that you would want to look at when you're focusing more on experimentation would be some of the things that I would suggest.
Before I jump into you, Mel, I'm just going to interrupt a bit. Measure your internal search, especially if you're in e-commerce. If people need to be searching for this stuff, you have an information architecture challenge on your hands. Please pay attention to what they're looking for. They already want you, but they're not finding what they want on your site. That's bad. So, Mel, I'm moving on to you, and I know that you have a specialty that we haven't spoken about yet, which is you're on the really human end of things, and we always think of quantitative metrics, but there's also a lot of qualitative metrics out there.
I literally just wrote down the word qualitative. I think there's a lot of talk of bounce rates and dwell time. What I'm here to champion is the voice of the customer. So one of the things that I think is massively underused is speaking with the customer service department about what people are complaining about, whether they, my bugbear, and I realise as I say this, I don't have one of these on my website, is the search box. Sometimes you'll come across a website and you've got a really quick thing you want to look up. There's no search box. Where am I going to find this? And I think when you try and capture the voice of the customer, you learn so much more about the research and the information they've gathered from other sources before actually hitting your website. So it might look like there's a high bounce rate. Maybe it's because they were sold one thing in the LinkedIn page or on Instagram, and then when they get there, they can't actually find the exact thing they're looking for. So I would heartily campaign for taking in that voice of customer and looking at what people are complaining about and what people like about the site as well.
So I will add, because I have to, but I had to optimize a website that sells bathtubs. I know, very exciting. And so one of the things that I learned and what I demanded we track is left drain or right drain. And if you don't care, you've never installed a bathtub, clearly. And I know this sounds odd, but they didn't think to have that option on there. So you have to go through and, as Mel said, look at what people are complaining about and then figure out how can you measure that for real.
And add that there's a massive loss to that through Twitter having slowly died a death, because that would have been where people would go at so-and-so, I can't find this thing on your website. So can we just mourn that loss of the voice of customer really quickly?
So I have found something that brings me solace. I will share with the room. Perplexity AI is a search engine, so it is the equivalent to Google. And what I love is when you choose the focus, there is one that is called social, and it will search specifically Reddit. So I will ask questions like, what are, for example, cybersecurity companies or specialists complaining about when it comes to marketing? Instead of going into google.com and looking at the top 10 results to gather what I should be talking about. And it's not perfect, but it hits the spot where, Twitter has gone. So
I just wanted to jump into the qualitative aspect as well. Feedback loops is a huge thing for us. And I think definitely establishing feedback loops, not only with the product team, but with the sales team is huge, because they're the ones directly speaking. So you mentioned like customer service, support team as well. For us, what has been key is aligning the different stages that we roll out messaging for a platform or product, based on as well what they're selling, right? Because I know I see my sales guys at the back, so hi guys, but sales is already selling like what we're doing like 5 years like from now, right? So this is kind of like what we normally do because we sell the vision, but we also need to kind of tone it down when we talk about messaging and making sure that we actually can live up to that. And a lot of it will come from the feedback from customers, but also from the messaging that we put on those ads to actually, increase that click-through rate, which is a key metric as well for us.
So this brings me to another question, because one of the issues that we have is when we focus on CTR, we then start optimizing ads to perform well with the click-through rate and not to actually perform to bring customers. It's not the same thing. So how do we account for what we cannot account for? And I'm going to start with you, Mel. Basically, I know that everyone and their mother is talking about Nike lately because of their very, very big mistakes. So if you have not read about this, you have been preserved, this is fine, we'll talk about it. But how do you account for the unaccountable?
I'm going to pass it back to you. How do we? No, I'm not going to do it. That would be cheating. Well, this is the age-old question of like, how do we know? Because there's so much going on, as I mentioned just now, about the customer journey leading up to the point of seeing an ad or seeing landing on your website is so hard to measure. I don't have the answers other than monitoring what's going on, seeing where people are reading up on your product. One thing I wanted to mention in this section, though, is the rise in zero-click content.
Yes.
Because there's Amanda Natividad from Spark Toro talks about this a lot, about how an awful lot of content out there at the moment doesn't actually have a CTA button. So how do we actually measure that people have read this content, started to know, like, and trust your product or your brand, and then perhaps 3 months down the line, they appear, having seen your ad 10 times on Instagram, they suddenly just turn up at your website without any journey that you can track and buy from you. So, yeah, I don't have an answer, I'm afraid.
The pleasure of the dark funnel, isn't it?
The dark funnel.
It's the dark funnel. I don't know if you heard of this concept? The dark funnel, basically all the different touch points that happen before we actually identify a customer. So this could be people seeing your ads, sending a PDF over to a colleague on Slack, just seeing your LinkedIn profile without actually interacting on it, talking to a colleague about it. So these are all these touch points that we cannot actually track, but have a huge impact on creating demand for when you sell your products and leading people to your product. So this is something that I feel like a lot of times what we need to start looking at is a more holistic view of the business and how it's running instead of being in a siloed measurement model. So it's not ideal, but definitely when you start looking at reaching your business goals, revenue goals, right, you can see that the impact of the different actions or tactics you're taking are working. And then you can start to work your way back. And by working your way back, you can look at actually which channels are bringing in. But for instance, I see a lot of people, I know a few people in the room that run podcasts, right? Podcast is a huge demand creation pillar, but it's very hard to directly attribute revenue to just listening to one episode of a podcast, right? This is a part of a multi-touch journey. And I think a lot of times we just need to maybe have the vision, and I know it's very hard to sell internally, like the internal buy-in for this sort of strategy is difficult, but when you actually have these efforts that get pushed all together, you get to see the end results, which is the increased conversion rate and ultimately increased sales.
Can I really quickly add something on that note? How many people in the room have a spam email address that they use to sign up for lead magnets? Yeah. So I don't know about you. I sign up with my redacted email address and look at the lovely lead magnet. If I then ever buy from that company, I don't use that email address. That is my stealth mode untrackable research I'm doing. I might have done it on SEMrush's website. I'm really sorry.
I will jump in because I'm much more micro when it comes to this. So if you are a freelancer, if you have your own agency, I have a piece of advice. I call it the sausage dog factor. like plastering my sausage dog next to my smiling face all over my website has gotten me so many leads because people have an opening going, I love sausage dogs, or my mother, my uncle has a sausage dog and I have to tell you about it. And it is such an amazing way to actually convert. And I just wanted to show off my dog. That's how I learned. But going into this, you should be asking yourself questions that you may not even be able to answer, but it will still help. So I refer to the halo effect. I've had situations where I've been onboarded as an SEO to optimize a microsite. Yes, I know. For Christmas. And here I am telling them, why are you hiring an SEO? Like, it's 3 months out. You're not going to rank well. And I learned something after that campaign, because what I learned is they had such a weird name for that microsite, and they did a lot of radio ads and a lot of podcast ads, etc. And we would see that people would actually search from their phone in the car for stuff, and that weird name, it ranks automatically. So then I did track the microsite to the main site. Every single link pointing to there was right. I was like, okay, so they accidentally were right, and now I can prove it. But now let's take it one bit more. Have you ever had situations where you run paid ads and you cut them because you're ranking well organically? You don't need that anymore. Oh yeah, I see you, madame. Same. And the quality of the leads goes down, or the leads go down, period. And you're like, but it wasn't PPC bringing this in. So I have a theory for you. I do. I think that it's thinking fast, thinking slow. So some people are very impulsive, where they're in their dark funnel where they're ready to convert. They're going to click on the first thing they see. And other people are like, listen, it's an ad. I really want the real result. Oh, you're running ads and you're showing up in organic. Okay, I'm starting to trust you a bit more because I keep seeing you when I search. So that halo effect, it's not necessarily easy to measure. But you still have, guerrilla testing. You turn off the darn thing, not everywhere, okay? But if you see it goes down, like, you learned something. You may not be able to measure it, but you learned it. So I pass it off to you.
Thank you. I think just to quickly add to that, everyone has been so correct about it. But looking at accounting for the unaccountable from an experimentation point of view, look, I'm a data girly. I am tracking everything. I am that person that is constantly advocating and advising people to really just go into their data and build out all those dashboards, whether you need them right now or not. You never know when something clicks and something happens, and there's this funnel that maybe you hadn't been thinking about at all, because it's like, oh, this just leads to the help section. Like, no one even goes there. And suddenly you see that, wait, everyone is going there. And now you have the dashboard to understand why. And you have that dashboard that can give you a historic idea of how you got to that point. So if you're looking to, I guess, account for the unaccountable, just always factor in building out those dashboards and just leaving them to lie and leaving them to collect dust until you need them.
Which is a nice way for us to bring this first portion to a close, because let's get back to the Nike thing. What happened was that they wasted a lot of money, okay? I summed it up. If you want to read the UX article, like, you can go there, they will explain it, but millions and millions and millions, oodles of millions lost. And the reason why is that they focused on what's easy to measure. So there's a law for this, Goodhart's law, which means that if you are focusing on a metric that is easy to measure and you want to optimize for it, you're missing the entire forest because you're focusing on the tree. And if you are stuck with someone that is above you, focused on that, only that, you are going to drown. So you need to have some sort of compromise and introduce this and basically bring it on the way Itasoha did. Like, we're going to measure all of this because I understand where you're going, but there may be other stuff. And just in case you want to visualize the dark funnel, I see it on Julie's screen. So after the panel, you can go up to her and say, show me the thing. So now that I said this, we got to move on to something else that is very, very important that we're losing sight of a lot. And here's why. We're all focused on all the different laws coming out for customer privacy protection. But let's get back to ethics. Like, we don't like to be sold at. We don't like to be bombarded. So my first question, and I'm going to start with usually because you gave me the best example. What's your most hated dark pattern when it comes to UX?
So if I were to look at, I would probably say Roach model, absolutely. One of the things I absolutely hate is buying a service, a subscription, and not being able to get out of it. I'm actually going through it right now. That company is not attending brightonSEO, so it's okay. But basically, I'm trying to get out of this subscription model, and I've been battling with their bot. I've been battling with their CS team, and I've been battling with just directly the account management, and you're not able to get out. I think this is the worst thing. So when we talk about, we want to be able to get people in with no friction, but we want to be able to let the people out with no friction as well, with the right reason. I mean, there's no absolute reason for people to go after you if you're that. I think upselling is good, trying to keep people, trying to retain, but if there's a valid reason for leaving, which is basically we just don't use it anymore, right? Let's let people leave these services without the friction. So for me, that's like the worst. And I think I'm seeing it more and more, and I'm seeing it's becoming a bit more sneaky in the way that they do it, and it's definitely the ethics, like you were talking about, is definitely not there. So yeah, I would say.
I will add this to this because I had experience where I worked for a company that had a 30-day money-back guarantee, and it was a WordPress plugin promising, and they still deliver. WP Rocket, I know, I'm shocked too. WP Rocket really tries to improve, like performance and measure it, and they, behind the scenes, they're maintaining all of the everything so it works seamlessly with 80% of the setups. But that 20% of the setup, they would need to dedicate entire teams to help fix that WordPress. Let the person go. Tell them, hey, our bad. Like, this is clearly not a fit. Like, you decided to build a nuclear reactor on a picnic table. That's on you. And that person being let go, they're very, not necessarily happy, but they get to say, okay, this wasn't for me. And they're not going to go out there going, and then they made me waste an entire year and I paid. And they're not going to complain. Yeah. They're done. So for you look at your stuff as well and you go, am I going to expend 80% of my energy trying to satisfy 20% of the people that are not good customers that I wish would just drop off? Don't do that. So now I pass it off to you. Most hated dark pattern.
So many to choose from, little time.
Too many.
I think just going away from like dark patterns I have experienced as a user and more focused on dark patterns I have experienced within teams. This is controversial for me to say since I'm such an advocate for experimentation. Stop A/B testing without doing any research. We A/B test so many different things all the time. It's like, oh, I want to change this little thing on the website. I'm going to run an A/B test for 30 days to see if it converts, to see if it happens. And it's like fantastic mentality, but like do some research, like don't forget that UX at the end of the day is psychology. And we're trying to understand what makes people tick and what makes them do the things that they do. Why are they even here in the first place? Understand all of that and then ask yourself, is this one tiny change worth the amount of money I'm going to spend A/B testing when I don't even think it's going to really affect the users in the way that I am envisioning it will? So we sometimes as UXers get into our own heads because we're like, I know everything because I've done all the research and I've looked at all the articles and I'm an expert, and that's fantastic. But don't forget that you're listening to customers and you need to understand where they are coming from.
I don't think that was controversial enough, so I'm just going to add on to it. I'm just going to say, do not use A/B tests to bully other people in your team, because I've seen that happen. I worked for a big German company, and they would just threaten each other with experimentation. Nobody has lived through that? Am I the only one?
Yeah.
Okay, and you're like, you're even foregoing statistical significance because you want to prove me wrong. Please just go touch grass. So, yeah, that's my take on it. So, Mel?
I'm going to not be too controversial because it occurs to me that the people that designed this app might be in the room. Probably not. But there's a very well-known grocery app that I've just spotted my friend Mel. Hi, Mel. Sorry, I'm very easily distracted. that gives you the option when you log in on the website to mark your preferences. Now, I don't drink through choice, not through any terrible life experience. And so I've ticked on their teetotal. And yet when I go into the app of this unnamed grocery store, it still throws up adverts for rosé, gin, all the special offers. And I think there's a deep ethical concern there.
Yes.
Because for me, I can just be like, whatever. But for people who have specifically gone in to mark that they don't want to be shown these certain things, to then be shown it is really deeply unethical. The same app also does this little kind of like, are you going? Can I show you these things as well before you go? And then you're like, it's 11:42 p.m. and if I don't check out in the next minute, then my changes aren't saved. Just let me out. Just let me get to the checkout, please. And so I think we need to make sure that we're at the cost of perhaps the odd sale of some bread rolls. We need to stop making people click so many times just to do that very simple. Just please, Tesco, check out. Let me check out, Tesco, please, for the love of Christ. I just need to make sure that I've got these changes saved. And I think that often it's that thing at WH Smith's where they're like, can I interest you in a bar of Galaxy for £1? And you're like, sometimes I'll say yes, sometimes I'll say no. But can we just speed up this very crucial exchange of goods and services for money? Because I just want to get out of here.
My personal dark pattern, and I don't know what the name is, but whatever Duolingo is doing ain't working. Okay, I feel like I'm stuck in a family dinner at Christmas, and we don't even celebrate Christmas.
What's your streak? Because I think that traps people too.
I lasted for 2 years. No, but the problem is that I really disliked the app. So I realized we had a toxic relationship, and I exited. And the things it did to try to get me back,
it negs you, doesn't it? It really
like I'm done. Like I'm out. I feel like I survived something.
I'm still trapped in the Duolingo.
It does get better, but you need to get familiar with your phone settings to banish it.
But I'm on like a 500-day streak. I don't want to lose that. Not yet.
Well, once you realize you're in a toxic relationship, none of that will matter.
I'm not saying you should forgive Duo, but one thing that they do that I think is genius is when they change the icon. They did it recently to like a sick-looking bird. I mean, that is pretty clever to make people open it and see what's going on.
Yes, but I'm worried about it, even though I said no, we're done.
Just keeps pulling you back.
So there is a very French approach. I apologize in advance, but you'll see it's worth it. There used to be a Tumblr that was called Never on the First Date. And all it is screenshots of pop-ups upon pop-ups upon pop-ups that completely obscure the page.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, it's documented, and it's amazing because once you have that mindset, you're no longer mad. You're like, let me unravel all this. Okay, so now I ensure that I have no respect left for you, but I made it through. Congratulations, click. So yes, please don't do this. I know that, once again, if you end up telling someone, yeah, I know, but it works, that's not fun. I've had a team situation for a pharmacy. It's in Quebec, so I can actually name them. Brunet, I don't care. And I worked with someone that was specialized in the email portion, the testing portion. And it was always mothers who would breastfeed their children, or women on the beach, or basically as long as there can be a boob in there, he would stick the boob. And I walked up to him straight up. I was thinking, okay, this person, clearly we need to have a discussion. And he was like, no, I wish I could stop, but that's all that works. And I was like, we're not the boob company. That is just not gonna work. So you really do need to try to, just because it works doesn't mean it will work forever, and it doesn't mean that it will be sustainable. As Julie has highlighted, like that dark funnel is very, very important.
I just wanted to add one, just because I was thinking about what you were talking about Tesco. I'm so sorry. It's not online.
I shouldn't have named them. I'm really sorry.
So sorry about supermarkets. Let's say it's not even online, but like, have you ever seen this where, I mean, I'm from Canada, and in Canada and the States, like, we tip, right? Mm-hmm. Now the machines, the self-checkout machines ask you to tip. Have you actually gone through this? Like, and I know like people look at you terribly if you don't tip in Canada. It's like you're like,
Yeah.
So like trying to check out at like a supermarket is like give it like Walmart.
No, we're all okay with not tipping in it. Like, just bash that
Yeah,
red
but
button.
like back home, it's very, very hard because you have the lady like looking over the self checkouts, like seeing if you're actually tipping, and if like it's like the minimum you can tip is 10%, and I'm like, I'm just buying a pair of socks. Like, what is this? It's frustrating. Sorry, I just had to make a point there.
It's a safe space. It's okay.
So Canada is actually running through a genuine crisis when it comes to restaurants. A lot of them are closing because the thing is, if you cannot afford to tip, then you should not be out. So people are like, bet. Staying in, we good. So now a lot of restaurants are closing because of this, and the entire economy, etc. But yeah, it is one of the big things. Like if you go on Perplexity AI and you're like, social, how do Canadians feel about tips? We're waking up. So this leads me to an even more specific question. So this one, I fear I may be the one stuck with it. So we're going to see. If you're not comfortable with it, you tell me. What UX principles do you think have changed how we approach on-page SEO?
I'll let you take that one.
Yeah.
I can just say very quickly about that. I think one of the cool things that I have seen happen that has really changed the SEO game is this connection, I guess, with content hierarchy that wasn't really there before. So I remember when I initially got started with UX, all the SEO and marketing teams I ever worked with would just like have this block of content and just slash it on the website and be like, yeah, we've done our job, you go and you do your thing. And I'm like, nobody is going to read that, number one. Number two, it's just a waste of space. Like, hide it somewhere. But one of the cool things that has really changed since then is this understanding of information architecture and content hierarchy and things like that, where I'm seeing more and more SEO specialists very concerned about, okay, yes, we want to have all this information and we want to do all this SEO rankings and what have you. But how can we make sure that the website remains usable? And I guess that's one of the UX principles that has been really exciting to see how it has like transformed into the SEO space.
Mel?
I'm going to champion tone of voice because that's what my talk's on tomorrow. Come on down. Because I think with the advent of, I know we're going to be talking a little bit in a moment about AI specifically, but what the impact has been on the quality of content out there, it's quite sad to see, because you end up with everyone using words that nobody says in real life. Nobody says who says synergies? No one actually says that.
We unleash all the things for a deep dive.
Can we just all shout out the word that you hate saying? No. And I think with the user experience, there's nothing inspiring about turning up to a website that promises stuff like synergies or such and such reimagined. Really? Is it? And I think it's important to always bring it back to the person reading. Are they actually going to enjoy reading what you've put on your website? Is there space for being playful? And it's that balance, that constant tension of creating something that's easy to read and understand, and also engaging to read and understand. And that is the challenge.
So
that's why you need a copywriter.
You do. I think that there's certain UX principles that we're finally coming around and baking in that will help CRO a lot, that will help SEO a lot, which is that the total that you have is not just the sum of the parts of your page. It's the entire site, it's the experience, it's what Julie said, like when it comes to demand gen, it's not just, oh, that landing page is so good, I'm gonna give my information. No. Not only that, but it's like, that landing page is so good that I actually trust them, want to do business, I'm at the right moment, I'm going to share my genuine information because I want to be spoken to. That's a very different ball game. And I'm very happy to see a few things disappear, such as, what is SEO before any page? Like, your audience is not at the same level of maturity, and you need to figure out, Google can tell now, okay, we're talking to an audience that is expert, that is intermediate, that is beginner. So don't try to mush all of these experiences into one when it comes to your content or your experience. So I'm very, very happy about this. Another element, and this is not quite answering the question, but have someone with ADHD look at your stuff. If you see them wandering off, I have ADHD and I have my suspicions about a few folks at the table. If we're bored, and we wander off, most people are going to wander off today. Why? Because most of us have been now trained to doom scroll for our lives. Our internal CPUs are tapped out. So many humans now are behaving like people who do not have enough dopamine and wander off. So this is something that we also have to account for, whereas before we were talking to bots. So we would go, here's my keyword, here's my content hierarchy that will satisfy you so you know I'm legit, and we call it a day. Okay, a few internal links, we good, fantastic. It doesn't work that way anymore. So if we don't trust you, if you don't have the specific trust signals, we're not gonna onboard. And a tiny pet peeve of mine, you know how we seek to make everything localized and we have things in different languages? Yeah, so Bob, as a testimonial in France, is never going to cut it. We know Bob is not Robert, okay? Like, please make an effort. I can tell this. And the things that French SEOs, for example, are fascinated by, backlinks. If you do not say that word at some point in your pitch, you're dead in the water. I know it sounds weird, but it is what it is. So, Julie, based on all of this, do you want to recap something?
I mean, I wanted to maybe give the perspective on the marketing side of things.
Yes.
So you were talking about, the content we used to work, writing more like to bots, and it's all about pleasing the algorithm. One of the things we're starting to see a lot more as brands actually writing content, putting content out again because they want to, because they like it. And I feel like this is something that is eventually, I hope to see perform well, and I hope that is something that, but we're seeing it more in terms of ads, because if you just think about the ads, right, we used to plug in 80 character on Facebook ads, we used to have not too much text because if it gets penalized, so now we're starting to have tools to help us actually be creative again, and not only write for the algorithm or write for the Facebook or create or design for the Facebook algorithm or Meta, sorry. So I think this is something that I feel like we're seeing on the more marketing side as well, which I think is interesting. And this obviously relates directly to the content you put out, because then what you're looking is you're addressing people that are in market. So this is we talk a lot about total addressable market. We like to think about total addressable in market that we're targeting. So we're targeting this group of people that we could potentially target, but then when you look at a more ABM play, we're kind of narrowing it down.
Account-based management.
Sorry, account-based marketing.
Marketing.
So you're looking more at the people that are actually in market, and then the journey you can provide these people that show intent, not just search intent, but actual buying and purchasing intent can be very different. And then this is when UX is huge and CRO is huge, because you need to make this, once these people are in market, which is 1% of the people or 2% of the people you're actually addressing, this is when you need to really push them down the funnel. So this is why frictionless experience is huge, and as well making sure the content is relevant to their buying stage.
So I'm gonna make life much more annoying for everyone, but that means something. That means that you have to bake into your SEO process that at the core you can have 40 people in a room typing the same thing, and they're gonna expect maybe sometimes 40 different things at different levels of expertise. And it's on you to figure out, do I create one piece of content that will try to satisfy each level? Because I know with the advent of LLMs, AI, all of this, thought leadership is genuinely back. I know it sounds like synergy right now, but I promise that people actually do level up and try to bring something a machine could not. But that means that you really have to consider, do I create one piece of content because I know my audience, I know who's in market, and I'm not gonna satisfy the other ones because they're not who I'm talking to, and now I'm taking the risk of not being as visible as I could be in search results, but at the same time, I'm focusing on what truly matters to me and moves the needle versus going, woohoo, I'm number one in the results that fewer and fewer people check. So this means that we have to do a lot more work where UX folks would go, yeah, this is the intent, this is how we're going to work on this, and we did not have this. This is going to be painful for us. Yeah. So, talking about pain, let's move on to copy, cognitive biases, and AI. That is the last portion of the panel. And we're not going to start with the AI question, okay? We're going to start with how do you balance, actually, I know this is your question, but I'm going to start with Julie, okay? Get ready to shine extra hard. How do you balance persuasive copy with the SEO imperatives of, like the requirements of, okay, if you want to rank, you need to do this. So persuasive copy, sometimes we'll have stuff where you're like, you have not even used a keyword once in the page. Like, we don't even know what you do, but you're very inspirational. We want to avoid that. So how do you manage that, SEMrush? Like, how do you balance these ads? How do you balance all of this?
I think it's a bit what I said before, right? So it's about understanding where your customer is in the journey. And I don't know if we had it was with you we had that conversation, or yesterday we were talking about this, but it's true. Some companies will launch products and they'll just expect to rank for them, right? When we're missing a huge phase of the launch, which is the actual awareness around the product, or the company, right? So a lot of things for us is kind of taking it really top of the funnel, creating this awareness, and then being able to bring it down to understanding the intent and personalizing the copy. So of course, search keywords are huge, but like I said, what I'm starting to see a lot more is people with opinions, people with angles and different angles performing well. Myriam is great at doing that, actually. And then it's just being able to be a thought leader in the industry. This is something that is performing more because, yeah, people will search for your product, but first they will go through these 17, 20, 25 touch points, depending on the business that you have, before even be visible to you or trackable, right? So first what you need to do is become this sort of thought leader. So what we're working on directly at SEMrush Enterprises, just creating this content hub where marketing leaders can actually come and gather the information. Whether it's not about selling the platform, it's really becoming this hub where marketing leaders can get resources, get inspiration. I'm going to address like how to efficiently allocate your resources, or how to, and this is not directly what we do, but this is something that helps just kind of englobe the authority around what we do and eventually become this first top of mind person. So when you eventually search for us, then the intent is much higher.
Yes, absolutely. Mel, are you ready?
Well, I have opinions. I love that point about trying to know where people are as they arrive, because when you are keen to buy something, it's a bit like the redacted grocery name, where you just want to get to where you need to be. If there's an enormous, great big conversion copy sales page that just goes on and on until you get RSI in your thumb, you're like, just skip to the end. It can really put you off. Equally, if you need a bit more of that warming up and you've come in completely cold, I think there's been a real push. The kind of the mantra for copywriters is to focus on benefits over features, and we've almost gone a bit too far sometimes, where people want the facts. They want the hard facts of what something is, what it does, what makes it different to other products or services in the industry. So I think we need to make sure we've got that balance of obviously social proof as well, that is real, not from Bob, and the acknowledgement that actually people don't want to just see 5-star ratings. And I think in fact there's been research about how 4.5 or 4.8 or something. There's a pleasure in the imperfect. It's more trustworthy. So getting that real, again, the voice of the customer, saying what it is about the product they love, what it does, getting that up top and early is so important. That won't necessarily be SEO ranking pleasing, optimized, but that's what where the actual conversion comes in, because it's building the trust in the product and giving the customer what they're looking for as early as possible on the page, or at least having a a nice, easy button somewhere early on, so that again we don't get the RSI in the thumbs.
Jumping off of that, one of the concrete things that I can give is, hey, I know if you're going to invest time and write a piece, make sure it travels, okay? So you can repurpose it, sure. But also, measure the scroll depth. Like, I want to know, that's the first thing I tell people to do. If you're going to pay money to create this, can you please check that people are seeing your CTA? Because if they're not even seeing the CTA, you need to bring it up and do it with style. Like, make it make sense. But take into account that not everyone will behave the same way, which leads me to a special question for you. You're going to open the ball for this one. So we rely on AI for CRO a lot more, but one of the key issues that we run into is, how do we ensure that it respects cultural differences? Because the machine interpreting what it sees as cultural differences is reflecting sometimes like a funhouse mirror.
Yeah. Before I speak on that, I just want to say very quickly, if you're using ChatGPT to write your copy, please stop. We can tell. Every time I come on a website and I see copy that obviously was written by ChatGPT, I can tell. But to that point, one of the clear cultural differences that I have experienced as a UXer working first back home in Nigeria and then here is our tone of voice. So when you were having that conversation, I thought it was really funny because you say that words like synergy and delve and stuff like that are AI words. You haven't really spoken with a Nigerian uncle that was brought up to speak the Queen's English. And that's how a lot of our businesses write copy. We write copy as if we're talking to her royal, who's the queen?
Yeah, she died. I'm really sorry to tell you. It's really awkward.
I have a question. What happened to the corgis? I've never seen any news
Moved
coverage.
to live on a farm, I think.
Oh God, no. I know what that means.
But yeah, we write copy like we're talking to royalty. And there's that element of, I guess, respect that transcends into how we do UX as well, and how we want our users to relate with our products. So moving here, I realized that a lot of UX principles are what is standing, right? So if there's a principle of, I can't pronounce his name, but Nelson Norman person, and he says, oh, everyone should be doing this. And I find that here a lot of UXers are like, oh, that's really interesting. Let me do some research into it. And then I'm like, okay, yeah, sounds good. We're all going to do this. And that is fine, and it works a lot of times. But back home, one of the things that really structured how we built our products was around user interviews. And sitting a group of 5 people down and wagging your finger at them and talking to them hours on end so that you could get the right picture of the expectation and so that the expectation matches the products that you're looking to sell. And I think that really is like one of the core differences in how UX has been adapted in our context to allow us to sort of build those apps and build those products that we use in our day-to-day lives. Unfortunately, we still have a lot of blind spots. So like Mel was talking about with redacted supermarket, we have a lot of issues like that still happening. We have a lot of copy that covers the entire page and you have to like scroll all the way down and you're like, oh my God, I can't find the button to just make this end. But at the same time, there's just those little differences when you're looking at voice and you're looking at research methodologies and what really is in. So many differences like that.
So for me, I would say that familiarity is huge. So familiarity is that cognitive bias that makes it funny. When I look, for example, you don't think about it, but the way you chunk phone numbers is not the way phone numbers are chunked in Canada, for example. So if you have a company that is like, we are Canadian, and then they have that weird phone number, like, no, you're not. And so it's like the little things that set you off. And that's what I'm I'm very focused on when we talk about, AI making recommendations, those little things are not captured. And what you may not know is that I grew up in Hawaii. So I can say stuff like Liliuokalani, wonderful queen. But I also know that like the poke bowl that you eat at the restaurant that you pay an ungodly amount for is not only mediocre, but me in Hawaii, I would wait for a supermarket special to go on and then I would go buy my poke. Okay? And that's something that if you're asking an AI, okay, I want to optimize for like poke consumers in Hawaii and we want to create a landing page, it's going to like go with the restaurant trope, it's going to do all these things, and you're not going to be able to catch it. So you really do need to have a human in there going, hey, these insights, they're pretty good. That's outdated. We no longer do this. We no longer do that. Or it's very little things, but like, you may call it shaved ice or something else, I don't know, but it's like, a snow cone. Sometimes in the US they call it that. Now for me it's shave ice without the D, okay? That's because it's English, it's pidgin English. Mm-hmm. It's the local language. I don't know how else to say that. But when I have an American that tells me, oh yeah, I went to Hawaii and we had shaved ice, I'm like, of course you did, 2 weeks, right? Maximum. Okay, cool. Oh no, wait, you're American, so probably 3 days, because vacations. So concretely, I have to ask if you have anything to add, because I know that when you run a large enterprise company, these things have to be considered. Not everyone uses SEMrush the same way. So how do you begin to even think about it?
Well, when we talk about maybe going back to the question about the use of AI for that and localization, we definitely have a big team of localization to help with that. So of course, a lot of it, when it comes to translating all these thousands of pages that we have, just the platform itself, which is, with more than 50 tools and 350 apps that we have, it's just massive. But we do absolutely have people, humans, that will be kind of editing it. So the roles of a lot of the translators have become more editors for us.
And that's the thing most people don't understand. You need a very solid workflow if you're going to rely on AI, but you also need that human element. You can't do it all with just humans, because the scale is enormous. But humans are the editors. They are the gatekeepers.
So for us, for instance, the human touch point is the first touch point of doing any of this. So whether we're localizing to the French market, for instance, where we will be prompting with actual data research that we have. So we actually presented a study in July in Paris. And one of the things that was part of that study is the different emotional triggers that people actually make people buy or affect people, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the things, for instance, that we saw is that the French really rely on the brand reputation, and certain colors do not match well with them. So I used to work for an online course company, and basically their whole website was red, like flashy red, like aggressive red. To the French, this was the worst, just because they did not see us as a serious online course company where the courses that we were selling were actually proper, let's say. So we actually had to rebrand the website for this market. So for us, it's definitely part of that. So the touch points of the humans is huge, market research is huge, but also understanding with data and with actual people how we can apply it to the different personas that we're working with.
I would recommend you actually do take the time to download the SEMrush studies if you're in e-commerce or if in whatever, because they do take the time to localize the studies. So you know how it's lovely to read what the US is doing, and you're like, cute, I wish you luck in my market. It's nice to have something where you go, okay, within the EU, here's what people focus on. Free shipping is not everything they focus on. Like, the French are more into, give me all the things, I want the inventory, and I want brands. They don't care about your product, they care about the brand. Okay? And then the Germans are very pragmatic. How long can I keep it? How much does it cost? Like, it's
the
not
shipping.
Yeah, that's not this two different worlds, okay? And this is the type of stuff where you need to get smarter when it comes to AI and balance that stuff. So passing it back to you. Nothing else to add?
Sorry, no, you go ahead.
Just wanted to also quickly add to that point, Nigerians do not really care about social proofing either. Oh, 5 people bought this, so what? I'm going to take my time and decide what I wanted. So yeah, that's definitely something to keep in mind too.
Yes.
One last micro rant about shipping. Don't make me put my address in. Like, if you know I'm in the UK, just tell me how much it'll cost to ship. And just a general point on how we need to make sure that we're staying ethical, because a lot of the time in UX or in websites, there's an inclination with copy as well, with words, to try and use everything that we know about human-centered design and psychology, like trying to turn it against people. And that might work in the short term, but it's absolutely terrible for building any kind of long-term trust in your product or service or brand.
I will add, because you sound way too cute about this, this actually can be tied to money losses, okay? And when purse strings are getting tighter, people get hateful. And if you already preloaded some hate when it comes to your brand, they're going to make an easy choice, okay?
They're going to make a TikTok about it, about how you screwed them over.
But it is a thing, like, I will name and shame. I had a laptop from HP catch on fire, and they tried to convince me that not only did I need to put my hand on the battery to remove the fire from the laptop while I was on the phone with them, but then they tried to gaslight me into saying that I had caused the fire that did not exist because they're denying it. I'm still not buying HP. I'm telling you about it now. It's been more than 15 years. I'm still going strong. Yeah, I know, sir. Like, those printers, I don't even look at them, okay? I don't even care about the drama, because every time drama comes out, I'm like, I told you so. Don't have people like me. Don't trigger them, okay? They're dormant in your customer base. Don't do that. There's money tied to this. So whenever we say, like, be nice, be kind, consider, no, there's money. Tie it back to money, and you'll be fine getting people to do ethical things, not out of the goodness of their heart. People are like electricity. They will take the path of least resistance, and that involves being unethical. So you cannot win if you're fighting against that with good intentions. You're getting nowhere. Please tie it to value, tie it to risk, tie it to liabilities, and make them fear you, basically.
I kind of wish you were holding a mic so you could drop it. That was beautiful.
Well, we are coming to the end of this panel. If you would like to info dump on us, complain about something, or give us a really good anecdote, I'm pretty sure we're all highly visible. So reach out to us after this wonderful panel.
Yeah.
Where can people find you, Mel?
I'm at allcopymel.com or indiebusinessclub.com for the podcast. And I'm also on LinkedIn a lot.
Too much, huh?
It's been said, yeah.
Yeah, and it's since the downfall of Twitter, I'm stuck in that cubicle as well.
Yeah, we're making it more fun there. Just, if you hate Twitter, come over.
See exactly what we're talking about, like brand at play. Everything we've spoken about is coming out. It's not just Tesco. Where can people find you?
Well, today you can find me trying to get merch downstairs.
Oh, yeah.
And you can also find me on LinkedIn. My name is a little hard to spell, so you can come up to me and I'll spell it out for you. You can find me on the now dead Twitter, because I am still one of the few people that is chasing memes on Twitter. So.
Wait, are you a bot? Because you seemed really real.
Shh. Don't ask questions you don't want the answer to.
Yes. And Julie, where can people find you?
So just like Itasoha said, we're actually booth number 4, flashy big booth. I don't think you can miss us in the purple. That's why the jacket today. And on Julie Farley on LinkedIn.
So one last thing, if you want to know about Demand Gen, you can also find Julie in your next marketing conference. So keep an eye out. And thank you very much, all of you, for attending this early.
Where can we find you?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh.
That was smooth.
Well, apparently, if you type Myriam SEO, you can find me. But I'm all over the world. I'm a digital nomad, and if you want to work with me, chances are I may come to your country to either train you or debug something, and I would love to. You can find me at neurospicy.agency, which is more the cognitive side of what I do. And if you need data or more technical SEO, I work with the Pragma agency. So it's pragmatic cut in two. Nobody remembers it. Very pragmatic. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
Monthly reporting making you want to shove sharp things up your nose? Try Dragon Metrics, the all-in-one SEO software with mind-blowing reporting tools.